Hey guys, it is August 31st. We've got a PTR patch. If you guys are unfamiliar with a PTR patch is a public test realm patch, which is usually used for new heroes and reworked heroes to determine if they are balanced. Well, not really if they're balanced, just to see if they're really buggy. Allows us to kind of break the heroes down a little bit, break the reworks down a little bit to see if they're buggy. A balance comes later when there's a lot more people that are actually going to be testing those heroes. PTR is one of those areas that we're not going to be seeing it in game for about a week. Next Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on if you're in North America or Europe, is when you guys will be seeing these changes live. But this is an awesome PTR patch, so we'll definitely get into it. But I do just wanted to share once again, this is PTR. Now, if you want to try these out, you can go to try mode in PTR to try things out. But otherwise, and you have to download it. You're probably not gonna be able to find many games unless you join like a streamer or something who's got like the 10 people that can bounce back and forth. But either way, let's get into it. The first thing is a new Nexus anomaly. Now this one is funny because I've actually recommended this one 2 years ago, and I'm sure a lot of people have. And then I also brought it back up in my summoner skills video, from where I said let's bring over some of the summoner spells from League of Legends, just the ones that were already in Heroes of the Storm. And it is kind of interesting that that they brought out Gladiator's Medallion. So Gladiator's Medallion isn't necessarily just cleanse from League of Legends. I would say it's more like what it's named after, which is the PvP trinket from World of Warcraft. If you're unfamiliar with the PvP trinket in World of Warcraft, what the PvP trinket did was it allowed you to remove all CCs from yourself once, and it has a decent cooldown. I think when it initially released, it was a 2-minute cooldown, and I don't play enough PvP in World of Warcraft to know where it lies now. But it's a huge tool for knowing when the enemies are going to be trying to do. I'm wording this really poorly. It's a great tool if you know when the most important CC that the opposing player or team is doing. So, for example, if a rogue does sap, you know the next set of damage you're going to take is going to remove you from sap. So, even though sap's a long CC, you might not want to cleanse it, but you might want to cleanse it. You might want to cleanse it because someone might be trying to prepare something big. For example, a sap into a pyroblast, the first set of damage might just kill you. That's not something that people normally do, but let's say that's what they're doing, is a sap into a pyroblast. You may end up wanting to actually remove the sap so that you can pop a defensive cooldown before you get hit by the pyroblast. But most of the time you want to use it to remove a CC that is that people can do a lot of damage through, a variant taunt, or a cheap shot in World of Warcraft is very common for people to use their PvP trinket to get out of. Maybe Hex, as again, they can set up a bunch of stuff whenever they Hex. Maybe you're beating someone in a battle and they do a long CC to you so they can heal themselves. You might want to use your PvP trinket to remove the CC so that you can kill them before they heal themselves. So there's aggressive PvP trinket usage and there's defensive PvP trinket usage. So now let's talk about how this is going to affect Heroes of the Storm. Let me read what it does first so that there's no confusion. Heroes now start the game with a new item on their action bar: the Gladiator's Medallion. The Gladiator's Medallion can be activated to become unstoppable for 1 second. So you are cleansing. It is a cleanse that you can use on yourself. The cooldown is 300 seconds or 5 minutes, also known as 5 minutes. Deathwing and Gaul. Cho still has one, but Gaul does not. Deathwing and Gaul do not start with a Gladiator's Medallion. It wouldn't do anything for Deathwing. He's always unstoppable. And for Gaul, you already have one with Cho. So having 2 on 1 hero would be a little strong. All 3 of the Lost Vikings gain the effect of medallions when activated. What this is going to do, because it's such a long cooldown, this is going to be something that needs to be used at the right moment. Using it, even as often as people use cleanse, which people tend to not use cleanse that often, is going to be very easy to punish someone for. Maybe you hit them with a root on Arthas that your team likely wouldn't have been able to follow up anyways. They use their PvP trinket and you go, okay, I'll just root you next time while it's actually a team fight. People that are using their medallions outside of team fights are likely to be losing something until you start reaching the late game. Getting picked alone is a really bad thing. So being able to pop that to get yourself out of a CC and also be immune to CCs is really impactful. I'm going to answer a question that isn't answered in this. You cannot use your PvP trinket while channeling an ability, but you can use the PvP trinket while you're already CC'd. So, and I keep calling it PvP trinket, I'm talking about the one in HotS. What that means is you cannot use this during a mosh to prevent the interruption of a mosh. Hopefully that makes sense. If you are using a channeled ability, you cannot use this. So channel abilities can still be interrupted like normal. You're still risky using those. Cleanse is still valuable in those situations because you can cleanse someone who is using a channel ability. Hopefully that helps you out, guys. As always, with balanced patches and patches in general, I like to break it down in 3 different ways. Overall, talking about it, what it's going to do, what it's going to affect. Number 2 is how it's going to affect the meta in Storm League. And then number 3 is how it's going to affect the meta in competitive. Overall, we now have an understanding of how it works. It's going to be both offensive and defensive. You can make bigger plays because you don't need to be worried about being CC'd during those plays. You can do a Genji Dragon Blade, and when that Uther starts running up to you, you're like, oh no, bud. You unstoppable right as he goes for the stun, and then you just Dragon Blade him and finish off his team. So there's offensive plays, there's defensive plays. A Zul root goes out, you're a little too far from your structures, and it's level 20, you don't want to get caught alone. You pop your unstoppable, you walk back. You won't have it for team fights, but you didn't die alone, so at least you're there for the team fight. So there's definitely going to be some awesome uses for it. How it's going to affect your Storm League? Overall, it's going to nerf point and click CC. It's going to also nerf CC that's easy to follow up on, but not by that much, because things are chaotic and those CCs land a lot more often in Storm League than they do in competitive. So overall, this change will allow you as a player to have more control of what happens in a team fight, but it's going to be a little bit more mind games. You might want to see if you can do a couple CCs and posture as if you can lead to the kill to get them to use their unstoppable first, before a team fight happens. So there's a lot more psychological, there's a lot more playmaking that you can do with this, and it just puts a little bit more power on you individually as a player. In competitive, it's going to be huge. This is going to define the meta. Burning people's medallions is going to be a huge thing that you're going to want to be doing. And it's the medallion, by the way, is going to be, it's going to show up as a green cleanse, right? So if I was to toggle cooldowns, it is a green cleanse that will make you unstoppable. It does not have a cast time, so if you are casting something, remember it cannot be casted during the cast time of your ability, but it can be casted before and it can be casted after. But you cannot, like if you listen to when I was trying to press it the whole time and it just wasn't going off. So cannot be used during cast times and it cannot be used during channel times. But in the competitive scene, this is going to be huge. It's going to define the meta. People are going to be trying to burn medallions from the enemies. It's going to define the comps that are used, blow-up compositions, which is pretty much... blow-up compositions have been the thing in the meta since the beginning of the game, and they have never left. People like to say, oh, well, double support's been the meta, but no. Every single comp that has been in the competitive scene has been a form of either a wombo combo or a blow-up comp in some way. Sure, some blow-up comps are better than others, but almost every composition has been a form of a blow-up comp since the beginning of time. So having this is going to be one of the biggest swings in the competitive meta that we've seen in a long time. Wombo combos are going to be a much more effective because it's going to burn an entire team's set of medallions all at the same time. And if you've already burned their medallions early on and you combo with like a Void Prison into an APOC, and two people are going to use their medallions, walk away. The other three are just going to die, and you win whatever fight. So bigger combos and more long duration CCs are going to be much more effective. This is a great way to buff slows and slightly nerf hard CC. So overall, really large change. Is it good or bad? We'll find out. I think it's cool. It's going to add a lot more individual skill. But yeah. Aram mode. This isn't going to really affect the meta any, but the cool things that you should note about Aram mode. One, it's going to be a separate mode now. So if they do want to bring out a brawl, that's up to them if they can do that, and we might see those old brawls come back. Let's talk about the things that are different about the current Aram mode. There is a map pool, which means you might see different maps in Aram. It's not going to be the same map every single time. Another thing about Arams, it doesn't, they don't say whether or not it's going to be giving the chests, which means it might not give the chests anymore. We'll know when it comes around, but instead of chests, it now will affect your events and your weekly quests and your daily quests. There's no dedicated weekly quests anymore. So you don't have the chest anymore, but you will be able to do your dailies and your event quests with, which personally I think that's better because, I mean, gold to me is worth more than loot boxes for most people, because you can just buy loot boxes with gold. And at the same time, if a new hero comes out, it's better to have gold. You can reroll loot boxes with gold, and you get loot boxes all the time, just from leveling characters. So you'll be able to get loot boxes and gold now, rather than just loot boxes, which is great. Loot boxes by leveling up heroes is what I'm saying, if you didn't get that. The other rules are still about the same. No additional objectives, destroy the core to win. Every player must pick one of 3 heroes randomly. Hearthstones are disabled, and the starting area does not regenerate health. Pretty straightforward, ARAMs. The only thing that's different is it's going to have a map pool, and it's going to have it's going to affect your dailies and your special event quests. So overall, pretty cool change. Collection, I'm not going to get too much into the skins. I will talk about them at the end of the video. So let's get into everything else that this patch has to offer, and then we're going to get into the skins. If you guys are interested in those, it'll be at the end of the video. But there are some cool new skins because they're doing I believe they called it the Crafts event, where they were going to take StarCraft and Warcraft and kind of smash them together. So there's a lot of skins that are mix and mash of those two things. Storm League. They're dropping it down from 50 wins to 35 wins to get the mount, as well as to get the Season 4 rewards and Grandmaster leaderboards. Here's the Storm League rewards mount. Again, there's no difference between if you're Bronze or Grandmasters as far as what mount you get. It's just a mount for playing ranked enough. They're lowering the requirement to help Storm League be more approachable to a large portion of the players. Yeah, because you got to remember that 50 wins was essentially 100 games on average, so that could be a lot for a lot of players. I generally don't play that much. You guys got to remember, I work full-time, I go to school full-time, and I do this for you guys. And so there's a lot of seasons where I don't even play 100 games per season. Ever since they made these changes, I don't think I've ever gotten the full rewards from them because oftentimes when I'm on HotS, I'm coaching. So it's difficult to be able to get these rewards. Like even this latest season, either of my accounts I can add up all of my wins, and I don't think I hit the 50. I think my Smurf's at 35. Like my win rates are great. My win rates on my account and my Smurf are like 70%. It's just that I just don't ever hit enough games. But I like the 35. That's a little bit more approachable for myself. Hero rework Diva. I'm gonna make a separate video for Diva's rework, so we'll come back to that later. And same thing for the hero rework of Gazlo. We're gonna come back to that later. You guys can speculate, but my goal is to get those videos out today. So you'll see them probably within the next few hours or so. So now we go to Alarak. These are going to be the balance changes. So keep in mind that the heroes that people have been complaining about, the heroes that the higher level players have been complaining about, Orphea, Cassia, Imperius, Yrel, I think those were the main ones. I could be, I might, Tassadar was another one. Those 5 heroes people have been complaining about. So the goal here is to see if this slight balance change affects those heroes. Alarak is getting a health increase. His win rate was a little low. I think these changes are pretty conservative. They're very small changes. I call them percentile changes, where you just change a couple percentage here because or you change just slight things because you're just trying to bump up the win percent by a little bit. But that's the base idea of that. Nothing major is going to change from this. And again, the way that I approach these, I'm going to be talking about the change, how it's going to affect Storm League, how it's going to affect competitive. Likely won't affect either or, really. This could be pretty decent in competitive because the E-build is still pretty solid because it's consistent, but I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. Cassia, Surge of Light. This needs to be nerfed. Even more so. I would rather this just be removed, personally. Her entire playstyle is based around this talent. You can nerf it down to the point where it's not based around this talent, but then it's just a bad talent at that point. Because right now, if you play based off of Surge of Light, it's busted. But if you don't actually play based off of Surge of Light, it's only okay. It's not amazing. So the more they nerf it, it's just going to be a dead talent. Because once you nerf it to the point where people don't play around this talent anymore, they're just not going to pick this talent. And I'm worried that Cassia herself without this talent isn't that strong. And I don't like when there's like a really strong talent that defines an entire playstyle and they keep nerfing that rather than just removing it and bringing it back to what the hero was before that, like really weird playstyle. I would rather a tank have a playstyle like this, where it's like, while they're taking damage and moving, they get an ability activation. I feel like that would be cooler than having it on like a damage dealer. Even if it's a small damage, not like Surge of Light damage, but like even like 50 damage on a tank would be more fun. But either way. Chromie, recently her builds got readjusted to level 1 talents, and W build has been dominating. This is a great, these changes right here are great changes to W build. By the way, this will likely make a big difference in Storm League, and at the same time, this will make a pretty considerable difference in competitive because you have to take a lot more damage to activate, and the activates do a little bit less. So this is a good change. Chromie, W, the damage per stack is being reduced, as well as the level 5 Mobius loop damage in the middle, the bonus damage in the middle is being reduced. These are both huge changes. They're going to definitely affect the meta in Storm League. I think they're not going to take Chromie out of the meta, but it certainly puts her from overpowered to strong. I think these were great changes. In the competitive scene, we just started seeing Chromie used a lot. I would argue the same exact thing in Storm League. Like OP to strong. Doesn't really, she's still gonna be good. Ruby. Ruby's cooldown went from 30 seconds to 20 seconds to 10 seconds. When it was at 30 seconds, I and the competitive scene pretty much said, no, it's not that good. When it was at 20 seconds, a lot of people shifted over to using Ruby at 20-second cooldown. I did a lot of analysis, and a 20-second cooldown with like something like a Mal'Ganis that can move around a lot over in that side of the fight, it was pretty good. Someone like a Tracer, anyone who could just go pick up those without being at a risk, it was good. But it wasn't better in every situation. Then at 10 seconds, it was better in every situation. I think at 20 seconds is the balanced amount because it's a competitive talent, and we'll start seeing more coming out from the other talents as well again. So I really like where they're keeping this. Great change. ETC Encore, I think this needs to be 4% personally for this to be a competitive talent at all. To have the other talents competitive again is what I'm saying with that. I think it needs to be 4%. 6% is still really good. 8% was absolutely busted. I mean, I had one game where I was actually gonna make a video about it, but then it was literally gonna be like a 3-minute video to just talk about how strong this talent was when I knew it was gonna get nerfed. But in that video, I had a 10-second cooldown mosh pit. I literally ran out of mana so fast. I slid, moshed 4 people, and I was only next to one person in Illidan. It was just myself and an Illidan fighting 4 people. I slid, moshed 4 people. At the end of the mosh, I pressed W. They all came in to kill me. The W encore went again, and then I pressed my W one more time, And then they all started running, and I slid and moshed them again. I was out of mana. But yeah, so I got 2 moshes off in under 10 seconds. It was a little more than 10 seconds, but yeah, it was wild. Um, Imperious, Flash of Anger. This is where Imperious has been pretty much wiping teams. You get to do a ton of damage based on how many people that you spike. So when you spear someone, and if there's 2 people, they both take 180. If there's 3 people, they all take 180 3 times. You know, like or 2 times. And it adds up. Or 2 people is 2 times, 3 people is 3 times, 4 people. You get it. It gets really out of control quickly, to the point that Imperious was just kind of something that people would throw in the team for the off chance you got lucky. And if you got lucky, you just wipe the team and end of the game. And so nerfing this talent is a pretty big thing that they should do. And it also makes it more competitive. Swipe gives Imperious the ability to double soak. And so it should be a competitive thing. It should be a competitive tier where people go, oh, well, this talent here, I need to, if I really want burst, I'm gonna have to give up wave clear, and that should be a question that you have to say. But yeah, I think this is a great change. It's gonna affect competitive. I don't know how much though, because this difference is still gonna, if you still land a 4 or 5 person spear, it's gonna be huge, which is still okay. I mean, I think in times it's still fine to have that benefit, but it won't be as impactful if you only hit like 2 people with it. Both of these changes, I think, will make a pretty decent hit in competitive. This one's going to be huge for Storm League, but this is still a really busted talent. This will be okay in Storm League. He'll still be used in competitive. He'll be used less. I don't think this is the largest nerf, nor this one. So they're just small nerfs, percentile nerfs. Again, they're just trying to reduce their win rate by just a little bit. Orphea, they're nerfing trait build and they're buffing E build. E build is now going to complete faster. It's going to complete with a little bit less damage, but the fact that it completes faster is going to lower its cooldown faster as well, which is great. Trait build's getting a slight 5% nerf on that, as well as a 10 health nerf on your shield you get at 13, and a 5 damage nerf on dead magic. Remember that all of these numbers also scale based off what level you are. These are the numbers at, well, not this one, but these are the numbers at level 0, so they will naturally be higher when you get to those tiers. I think trait build's still going to be the build for Storm League. It's fun, it's easy to use, you don't really have any issues with it. But in the competitive scene, E-Build might start seeing some action again, most likely in Europe, just because it's a little bit more follow-up. But I would say that, except for we now have that cleanse, which means throwing E, which is a slow-moving ability. If a stun goes off and they see an E rotating, they might self-cleanse and walk away because they know what burst is about to hit. So I think E-Build's going to need a little bit more buffs purely because they did make that change. So trait build's still gonna be the build for pretty much everything. Stitches, increased damage to minions and mercs from 50% to 60%. This change isn't big enough to make any major difference. I would have liked to see them at least try 100% just to see what it does. I don't think that he's ever that strong. And I think that would be a cool thing for some playmaking potential. Imagine that he's lowering the health of all the different minions around him, and everyone feels safe because they're still minions. He can't hook you because there's minions. And then he slams down, all the minions die, and he immediately hook gorges someone and runs away. Like, that would be cool. Also, it fits, like, Stitches doesn't have an escape. Stitches doesn't have a gap closer. Stitches doesn't have a lot of things that tanks have. He doesn't have a guaranteed engage. So giving him wave clear is a suggestion that Leon has made for a long time, and I personally think that's a good suggestion. So, I like this change. I wish it was a little bit more, just to see how it goes, but I'm also not a developer, so what do I know? Tassadar, Static Charge. I think this is the only competitive talent on this tier, personally. I think this is good that they're dropping down the numbers. Archon, shield amounts being reduced. It's gonna make Black Hole a little bit more competitive, but it's still going to be, the Archon's still going to be the easier answer, is what I'll say. Urel. And what is this going to affect in the meta? It's going to bring Tassadar a little bit further down. I think a lot of competitive teams stopped prioritizing Tassadar. So we saw this in some of the most recent tournaments with Chili Mountain and whatnot, with these major teams competing. division, same thing. Tastar wasn't a huge priority, so this won't affect competitive very much. But I'd imagine this is going to lower the rate that he's picked in Storm League because it will affect his win rate. Yrel, she's been complained about forever in the highest ranks. Dauntless, the physical armor amount is being reduced from 40 to 35. Sorry, 40 to 35. It's a pretty decent adjustment. It's again going to make the other talents more competitive, and it's also going to make her diving potential be a little bit more limited, especially against teams that are more sustained damage. Because she's already very good against mages because she's so mobile and she can move around away from mages very easily. She can predict their damage a little bit and use her ults against burst. This is going to make her a little bit easier to deal with against auto attackers. So it really won't affect her usage in competitive. She's still going to be used a lot in competitive, but this also is another percentile nerf that should make it a little bit easier to manage in Storm League. Especially if you're playing someone like a Rain or a Greymane that she's diving into the backline, you have a little bit more pressure. Not a lot, but a little bit more. That is it. There's a couple bug fixes on a few things. Some issues with Sylvanas' trait, some issues with Executor's Will, Trauma Trigger, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. Train mount. Dragon. Oh, they fixed the train mount, which is awesome. So finally I can stop mentioning that it's banned in competitive. Let me talk about the skins really quick. So that's the end of the overall how it's going to affect the meta, all the changes. I was in the middle of the Diva rework video when I realized that my audio wasn't on for this video. So I'm actually redoing this video. But I do want to talk about the skins really quick. So let's start off with the Anduin skin. We have the Emperor of the Dominion. This is a very inexpensive skin, and it's tied to the Halloween event, which means it's going to come back every year for the Halloween event, but it's going to be gone during the times that the Halloween event isn't here. It's very inexpensive, doesn't have any animation changes or anything, just a decent skin for Anduin. It's kind of based off of like the Stukov type thing. Now, or you know what it's actually based on is what's that guy's name? Mangst. It looks like Mangst. Yeah, because it even has like the little thing. So, but yeah, StarCraft. A lot of the Warcraft heroes are going to get StarCraft skins. A lot of the StarCraft heroes are going to get Warcraft skins. And then there's also Mei, who just gets a Warcraft skin because she's Mei. Artanis, he gets the Draenei Executor Artanis, which does have some themed abilities. I'm not going to go into all of those. There's other channels that do that. But it's a cool looking skin based off of the Exitars. He also has the Exitar feet, which is kind of neat. So it's kind of just, and the Draenei face and everything. So it's a cool looking skin, I have to admit. Then we have the Arthas skin. This skin is really cool. They say themed abilities and themed animations. I went through and looked at it. I couldn't find any really noticeable themed abilities. So maybe they're not in PTR, or maybe they're just not that noticeable. But the only thing I didn't try was Syndragosa. So maybe there's a different Syndragosa. But yeah, it's a really cool looking skin. I don't know if it's worth the 1600 for it though. And then we go into the let's see, there's a Mei skin. Let's go down to Mei. And it's just like an ICC themed Mei, Ice Crown Citadel. It's like the armor and stuff that was around Ice Crown Citadel. It's cool. It's kind of like a little Arthas Mei. I think that was it for the skins. I could be there were extra skin colors for a lot of them, but I think that there were three: Anduin, Artanis, Arthas, and then Mei. Then there's also mounts that are available. There's Invincilisk. If you don't know, Invincible is Arthas's mount. And so they did a Zergling approach to it. And then they also did the Iron Kite, which is the hovercraft from StarCraft, that they have put Alliance logos onto. Well, the Stormwind logo, the Coltiers logo, and then the Stromguard Iron Kite, which is the Stromguard logo. So those are the new skins and mounts that are available for this event. There's also a new event that we won't be able to see, but there's in the PTR anyways, but there's going to be a new event thing as well, which we'll know the approaching week. So once again, guys, this is a PTR patch. This is not live. It will be live next week on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on where you're located. But a lot of awesome changes. I think these are going to be really, really fun. Stay tuned. I'm going to get that Diva and I'm going to get the Diva and Gazlo rework videos out as soon as possible, so make sure to watch for those within today. And then all throughout September, every other day in September, I'm going to be doing high-level hero guides. So subscribe, click the bell so you're notified when I bring out videos, because every other day you're going to have an awesome video, which is going to be a high-level hero guide. Remember, they are all scheduled out, so you won't be seeing the medallion being used in any of these. They're all from tournaments within the last 5 months, so they're still relatively recent. The balance should be about the same, the meta should be about the same, but none of them will be using the medallion because they're events that have already been ran. But that's all throughout September. They are gonna be a ton of fun. I'm trying to hit a lot of the heroes that I don't normally hit with videos as well, so I believe there's gonna be a murky video in there, just saying, and some other cool ones. So make sure to check those out. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll feel free, you guys feel free to check out my other videos, especially the Diva and Gazlo rework videos, which should come out today.